Yeah. So, hey, welcome to the Operation Grow Show, Season 5, Episode 44. Change of mind. Referring to a year ago we had the great debate, and then interesting to see if people's has it been a change of mind, generally speaking. We probably need more people to start joining in as well before we really get into it. But on the view about how credit, etc., for other people's work. Just having seen it pop up in other conversations, other shows recently, it's interesting to see that. But without further ado, though, hey, GMF, how you doing, buddy? How things going?
Brother, I cannot complain. Feet are above ground. I get to hang out with you. I feel like a lucky man. Just gardening, getting to plow through some new seeds and try some new varieties finally. So that's pretty fun. Always got to enjoy that. So yeah, I can't complain, buddy. I'm a fortunate man. Feet are above ground, and I'm grateful to be above ground and hanging out with you.
Yeah, Lefty, I posted the link to you on Instagram, buddy. All right, I don't know why I can't get Google Chat to work at the moment. Technical issues, and it's the same as last time, so use the same one. It'll work. Hamilton. Yeah, no. So, yeah, there he is. Yeah, I mean, on that topic from the great debate, where we were, the idea being, when it comes to commercial, and particularly when it's the commercial usage of somebody else's genetics, when it came to what you're doing at home for your own personal interests and mucking around and etc., yeah, fine, do whatever you want to do. But when it comes to in a commercial endeavor, then that's where it gets to the point where you got to start giving credit where credit's due, either financially, etc.
Well, and that etc. is the sticky wicket, right? What is due? Is it just credit? Is it monetary remuneration? Like, what is due?
Yeah, and again, what is it that you're actually yeah, it's a really interesting topic, because what is it that you're taking, or what is it that's being taken, or what is it that's being used? It's the fact that it was called this, so it's the copyright that's the bit that's actually in question, or the bit that's being ripped off. Does that make sense?
Then in that case, you never tell anyone what you make anything from, and you're not infringing on anyone.
Yeah, people wouldn't know.
Yeah, you just keep it to yourself. It's proprietary, and that way you never infringe. Nobody likes that.
People want to know what the lineage is. People want to know, where did this come from?
And when I cook food for them, I got to give them the ingredients. Yeah.
Well, yeah, exactly. So at that point, it presents okay, so yeah, I need to pay the dues for the usage of the copyright, which is therefore a little bit more easy to wrap your head around. You're paying a copyright licensing, is what it comes down to.
But didn't you pay that when you bought the seeds?
Not for commercial use. I think you bought that if that's, again, this is talking about it at commercial scale, not at the home grower wanting to muck around and play around with stuff. Yeah. Anyway, sorry, man. Lefty, how you doing, buddy? How things going there? How's life on the farm?
Good, man. Everything's good. Getting some stuff wrapped up. Got some mail sorted out earlier in the week. think I got them all out of there. I ended up about 50-50. I think I had 14 males and 16 females out of the Wooderson plants. So pretty close split.
Okay. And you get the room all finished up and everything hung up and.
Yeah, I need to get a couple lights. I think as these plants start getting a little bit bigger, they're going to outgrow being under those 2 lights. So, yeah, I'm going to have to do something. But yeah, all in all, the room's kind of it's done. I mean, it needs some tweaking, but it's done.
Our buddy Keith makes some good lights, and last I checked, he had deals on them.
I have 2 Keith lights.
Okay, just say.
Yeah, excellent, man. Yeah, no, I mean, I think it's, if you've worked, I mean, well, this is where it becomes more interesting on the copyright side of things, is that if you've worked hard to establish a brand and name around your material and you own the copyright to the brand, that's it. It's the brand name. You've put a lot of blood, sweat, and tears into building that up, and therefore it carries. That's the whole point. That's why people want to say I'm using this, is because of the weight it carries in there, the credit it brings with it for using it.
So is it of greater integrity then to never tell anyone what you use? Is that the idea? That way you're never quote unquote stealing anyone's thunder?
But that presents for itself a problem, because people want transparency at the same time. People want to know what went into it, otherwise they're not interested.
People always want stuff, and they want the opposite. It's hard.
Like who is this person? Where did it come from? And then somebody will slip a marker in and go, hey, hang on. What's going on here?
Well, you're seeing too that a few different breeders are actually growing out their own herb for commercial sale. I mean, there's a few of them out, West Coast guys that, I believe they do a lot of their own growing that goes out into the marketplace, don't they? There's a couple of them. But I mean, that could could be more of a trend where some of these breeders, they're going to do their breeding, but they're also going to have a warehouse where they're going to actually produce for themselves for the rec market or the medical market. And maybe they keep all their own stuff, and they're the only ones that have the rights to grow it commercially. Maybe it might be something like that. Who knows? But again, it gets back to, people doing stuff on the sly, and because everybody,
that's what they
marker in there.
Yeah, and that could happen at some point for sure. I think it comes down to, again, that if you are, the best practice would be to never name the strain until it's absolutely ready to go, until you have the final thing. At no point does it get leaked out when it's going out to testers and things like that. It's just numbers. Nobody knows what they've got then, so that when it is, this is the one I go commercial with, no one knows which one it was, which one was the selected one at the end of the day. You just took all the feedback from all of them to make your selection, and that's it. And then you copyright that name when you release it, so now you have it, because you don't patent the genetics or the genome. That's you copyright the name, the description of it. It's everything that goes with it, and the name, and that's what you do.
Right.
And that's much easier to protect. The description and the name that you gave it. That's much easier to protect.
Right.
I mean, you could scare the crap out of a lot of people if you went out there and copyrighted a whole bunch of these names.
Well, and that's why you've got, Mars Wrigley Corporation suing Chirp Hogs in the Northeastern Federal Court in Illinois for using Skittles, Taste the Rainbow.
Like Gorilla Glue #4. I mean, that's why it's not GG or whatever. It certainly that ran into a little bit of a problem.
But then you get into the stuff that happened earlier in the week, where I don't know if you guys have seen it, but where like Cookies Fam is using was it cultivated classic cement shoes? Like it's one of their own strains. Using the word cement shoes. I mean, like the strain, the name, fucking everything, right down the line. And just took it. No props to the dude, no shout outs, no permission, no nothing. Just fucking here you go. And it's causing a stir. It's causing a big stir in the community, in the industry. And it's just like, is this going to be the start of some of this new shit that's going to come around?
I mean, that's, I mean, to be honest, that's why I wanted to bring this up, because, from the great debate that we had this time last year, where it was exactly this, when somebody else steps in and goes, right, we'll take it. You've got there's no leg to stand on. I mean, it's like, what are you going to do unless you've actually done the graft and gone, all right, cool, I'll get it copyrighted. Not much you can do.
Right.
I mean, it can be taken, and it can be taken away from you so quickly. And it's just, it aren't hippies playing here. It's corporate commercial. There's a lot of money involved.
Oh yeah.
It's a totally different game that gets played.
Okay, let's be honest though, even without the corporate game getting involved, even without that, on our own scale, there's a lot of money that gets changes hands overseas. That's just a fact. There's a lot of money in that. So what is the ethical thing to do if people are going to sell seeds? What's the ethical way to credit someone?
Interesting. I would like to think, I mean, I think what you should do then, but that's why what you want to do if you're interested in seeds, the simple seed code, link in the chat there, discount code OG show. And there, what we try to do is show the full lineage, as best we know it, of every seed that's on sale. So that gives credit to the seeds are just numbered 1 through to whatever number are available. And what you're looking there for is, what is the lineage of the seed? What went into it, and I can then see and make my call on that and get a better understanding of what's actually gone into it. Well, and there's a great variety.
These are all built on everybody else's stuff. Like everybody's built on somebody else's genetics. So, I mean, you can't really, there's no point in lying about that. You know what I mean? Like you were showing us, certain strains, how closely related they are to others. Well, we know this data is out there, so why not just be upfront about it and say what you used and how you got to where you got?
Mm-hmm. And some of them you'll see, I mean, it's interesting. I mean, some of them are, there's very short line between like the origin of this being a landrace strain, so there's nothing necessarily before that, and like 2, 3, boom, there you go. And others, it runs into, there are hundreds of strains involved and crosses involved between A, and Z. And a lot of the same getting reintroduced at different points along the way. Interesting. But that was, it was exactly that thing that came up, and I thought, yeah. And what it is I think one person when they're talking about gene theft, he goes, well, it's more copyright theft. It's not really gene theft, because the gene theft is, it's a bit tricky to do. No two are actually the same, unless you stole a cut from them and they can go, hang on, that's a 1-for-1 match.
You'd have to prove
it's a little
uniqueness.
Tricky.
You're right.
Yeah, it becomes a little tricky. There are areas that allow you to say it's, it kind of is, but and when somebody, I think it was Anna, Dr. Anna, I forget her surname now, pointing out that you could actually encode in a non-encoding part of the DNA piece. You could like put your name in there, spell your name out, and have that as the marker.
Just CRISPR it up, little ACTG.
Interesting concept in a non-used piece of the DNA. I like to know, how do they know it? And otherwise, how are things going? everybody? How the rest of those plants come out? So any like in all the females that you've got in that cross, how are they?
Everything's doing really well. I'm really seeing the arise.
Yeah.
The arise male that I picked. I went with the real wide, real fat bladed leaf, and them. I mean, all of them plants are just huge fan leaves on them. Getting some stem rub from the banana OG on them. It isn't a heavy banana, but it's definitely in there. I told Jeff it smells similar to like a cocaine almost. When you get that stem rub on a few of the plants, it's a little different. But yeah, they're all doing good. I mean, they're cranking right away. They got really good vigor. They're only like, I want to say they're like 12, 13 days in. I'd have to check, but yeah, they're not even at 2 weeks yet, and everything showed its hand already. So yeah, they're doing really good, man.
Nice. That's good to hear, buddy. And then no, like you were talking like any no real variety. Sorry, I got slightly distracted.
Once it was, I had a few inches difference from this one to this one. So I mean, shortest to tall, so there's probably 6-8 inches different. And once I took all the males out, it was like I just cloned the whole room.
Really?
Yeah, I mean, I took all the males out with a sporadic, and like they were the tall and the short, So now everything's within like a couple inches of each other, so it's all pretty even.
Okay.
Just kind of surprised with I got all those males out there, and I was like, oh, holy shit, that's kind of cool. But yeah, they're all real similar in the structure. Very, very similar. I think I had one that kind of grew sticky. Kind of the kush where it had real tight nodes, didn't really branch out. And it ended up being a male. So yeah, everything looks really similar. I was actually really surprised with the similarities and everything.
Yeah, it's gonna be interesting to see when they go into flower as well. As they start again to the latter stages, and the rest of it starts to kick through, and you start to see any other
bud structure
potential.
The looseness, tightness of buds, the way they're stacking up. Yeah, it'll be really cool.
Stem rubbing, the different ones, terpene profiles. They'd be really interesting. You go, hang on, these are all, as if they're all consistently the same. That's a good thing.
Yeah.
Well, because then on the next cross, yeah. Because if these are all like really consistent, then the next cross could be like when that'll really pop you'll see the recessives kicking through, because it means none of the really strong recessive traits are being expressed.
Right. We know that arise breeds pretty true. I mean, I don't use King Solomon, but it's the same genetics.
Yeah.
So we know that it breeds pretty true, and it breeds pretty dominant from what I'm seeing, even though that I don't feel like I picked a very dominant male. I mean, I had 11 of them to choose from. So yeah, I definitely didn't go anywhere near the top end of the scale for dominance, but yeah, I'm definitely seeing that arise in those plants, but just crazy how it all shakes out, when you mix everything up.
Yeah. And it's gonna be very interesting when they go through that. I know from when the mystery grower, and they've popped a whole bunch more now on the hunt for a male to cross back and start the whole back across process and see how that goes. But yeah, they all look really similar. And then at a certain point in flower, it started to change. It was like, okay, things look a little different, smell a little different.
Stretch. Yeah.
And when they started to mature up at the end as well, some naturally have purpling occurring without any tweaking involved, etc. Just happened from the very beginning. Others didn't. There's some real minor things that you could pick up on, and then especially at the end, they certainly became more what's the word I'm looking for? Rated. That's the one. Yeah. And then yours there's GMF. How's your project coming along?
Oh, excellent. Like I said, I just knocked down Pakistani Chitral Kush by Golden Goat. That came out. Again, I'm pretty happy with it. There seemed to be fairly uniform, except I had two that were noticeably bigger. They clocked in probably 15%, more than counterparts. And one of them, especially between the two, they all looked uniform, but the two that were slightly bigger, and then one of them finished much faster than the others. So it's funny because even when they're pretty uniform, when it's an F1 run and then you're making your F2s to start really picking through for your weirdness, even then they have differences in personality. You know what I mean? They may look consistent, they may structure, you know what I mean? But one's going to go faster, one's going to go a little slower, one's going to be just a little bit more, you know what I mean? So I'm having a lot of fun, man. I can't complain. Yeah, and things are moving along. My problem is I'm very incremental, so I just kind of go piece by piece by piece. Right now, I totaled it up the other day. I've run through a total enough vials to pack 23,000 seeds almost. Yeah. And that's just for projects, just for filling the fridge and stuff I've given away to people and stuff like that. So
okay, now what was it that what did you say that it was called? What you did across with?
This one was, I was running the F2s of an F1 someone else did. This is Pakistani Chitral Kush. So usually shorthanded PCK, but it's Pakistani Chitral Kush. Yeah.
Okay, hang on. Which one?
Yeah, like Golden Goat.
So let's.
Go back. It showed it. Type it again. Now do PACK.
PAC.
There it is.
Okay, there it is. Yeah. So there's two. I mean, okay, this is using the seed finder underlying data set.
Yeah. Two
potential sources. One is from Ace Seeds, and other is the only two that they have that match that name.
Yeah, and I don't know because I got it from someone else.
Okay, so the interesting thing we do here quickly is have a look. It's a very low page rank score of 4.5, and this one is 2. So this one is more influential. This is the one that would be used in more things. Within that whole Vicus system, it's got 21 different offsprings. You can see how many offspring came from that, and that. Actually, I think the other one is actually an offspring of this. It goes by the same name from a different one.
Neat. I didn't know that. Thank you.
And what's interesting here is, looking at the flowering times of the offspring. So there you've got this flowering time is 60 days. This is 56. Well, it's got 2 offspring. Yeah. Ooh. That certainly went up to 120 days. That one stayed down at 55 days. So, I mean, that really jumps up, going from 56 days to what was it? Something called Coal Jam that has a flowering time of 105 days. So this thing really brings in quite a bump up on the flowering time. And unfortunately, there doesn't seem to be anything. No, this isn't being bred to anything, so you can't see if that trait carried on. And this one hasn't been bred with anything either. You can't see if it kept it much shorter than that. But yeah, can't see chat. I mean, is there any kind of strain in chat that people would be interested in maybe having a little deeper dive?
Well, what is Golden Goat? Because that's what I crossed it with. That's what I got it crossed with. So it's PCK crossed with Golden Goat. And I've heard Jeff use Golden Goat. That's part of his lineup. Correct, Lefty?
Golden Goat is Romulan and
Island Sweet Skunk.
Yep, Island Sweet Skunk and Romulan.
Okay.
It's the well. There's three according Okay, so this is according to Seed Finder. Just to be clear, there's three things that go into it. There's Hawaiian sativa. There's a sweet Island Sweet Skunk and a Romulan go into Golden Goat.
And what ratios do we know they go in? Yeah, what ratios are they?
This is just not entirely sure. What would be interesting then would be to get that genome sequence from those four and compare them, and then you'd have an idea, roughly. But I mean, it's tricky to say. I mean, this is the thing. The data is only as good as what people. This is law data almost. At the end of the day, word of mouth. But you can see this
like that lore data.
And this one's quite influential. It's quite a bit that actually hangs off this at some point. I mean, it's a case of it might say 26, but one of these, one point, one of them suddenly kicks again. If you remove Golden Goat out of the equation, how many strains don't exist as a result of doing that?
Well, in terms of giving credit, I got this originally from a guy named Root Seller who sold seeds at CAM in Colorado, like 10 years ago. I don't think CAM is even there anymore. But if anybody sees him or says hi to him, tell him I said hi and thank you.
So yeah, I mean, that's the that one's Golden Goat RA Genetics. And then I mean, that's the original Golden Goat, and then there is RA Genetics Golden Goat that's got a number of offspring from that. Arise, and Arise is quite an influential one out of the RA Genetics stable there. The size of these dots, by the way, in case I forgot, that's what it's determining there. Based on the page rank, how influential it is. And so it goes and goes. So you were saying you've got this with the Golden Goat. It doesn't know what the flowering time is here. Let's see, 60 days is what the one from RA Genetics is. Look at things coming off at what we got, 67, 67, 70. So probably around there.
65, 70.
Yeah, 53. There's one that's a bit. So
and because I made a seed run from it, I took it, probably, just to make sure I got really ripe seeds, I probably took it 11 weeks total. But I often let my seed runs go a little bit longer. That's not unusual for me. I just find it gets me a higher ratio of really nice, fat, plump, dark seeds. So
yeah,
these came out very nice too. I was very happy with the quality of the seeds that came out of this.
And then it was also,
I have a random pack of like 20 I'm about to pop right now just to see how well they germinate too. I do that every time I make some. I just scoop up all the tables and all the randoms and I just pop them all to make sure they pop well. It's weird, but I feel bad if I don't. Because I'm like, why bother keeping them?
Yeah, I find this one interesting as well, where you have, the flowering time reducing by more than 50% through the breeding line. So you can see if you're trying to work with things where I want to reduce the flowering time, it gives you an idea of, okay, let me go and these things.
Now I gotta take my glasses off so I can see.
You know, these ones are interesting. They have this instant kick somewhere along the line. So you go from 84 to 40, so you need to find out. So the ruderalis is what dropped this one's flowering time.
Sneaky ruderalis hiding in there we didn't see.
What, 53 is being, let's bring it back. 53, so yeah. Fast diesel. So yeah, this is, again, I said, I find it, when you get real gorilla glue seeds, interesting. That all brought these down fairly quickly from 119 days. Add this into the mix and send down to 53 days. So you would assume that that's a good one to work with.
But again, this is all based on the anecdotal evidence of Seed Finder, right?
Yeah, and how many
Awesome.
more people? I mean, what is interesting is you do get a count of, well, the more people that contribute the data, and this data can be, you know, added to from elsewhere. It doesn't have to come from Seed Finder as an example.
Source,
it's just part of this was initially seeded on that.
And the more data you get, the more you'll verify it out.
Yeah, the more you can. You know, like here, I say like a details bit that goes into, this is data from Leafly. What the most common terpene is and ratings for different ailments, etc., or conditions or effects, yes. So you could search on any one of these. And the more that you can link it to, the catch is, you know, this is just called amnesia haze. Now, which one of the many things that are called amnesia haze of which there are 25 that are called amnesia haze? But this is where having the thing scaled by size becomes interesting, because although there's all of these that are also called amnesia haze, this is the biggest one. This is the one, at least, that everybody is reporting to have used in their process. In fact, you probably find all of these are one away from this. Yep, there we go. How about that? That's a lucky guess. But it proves, so yeah, that's the one that you would want to try and get hold of if you want soma seeds, amnesia haze. That is the amnesia haze that everybody is based their strains on down the line, or has been used, is involved, you know, the largest number of times over all these. I think I'm repeating myself too many times. But I find that's what gets quite interesting with this. And yeah, the more data we can add into it, the more you can start to query down and find those outlier events and be able to go, all right, well, what's the average? If I now know I want to cross A with B and work out potentially average flowering times, just by knowing the full lineage and how it's been affected over time. And you could add in other morphology as well. So you could add in all the leaf structure, bud structure, height. I need to put in all the flavor information and smell and terpenes, add all of that in properly, as best I can. And then you can track those through as well.
So if you queried this data for like, what's OG Kush, is that too nebulous a name? Or do you have to be able to give it all the different names it went by?
No, you can say what's OG Kush.
Because I mean, I've heard people said that that's actually a number of different things.
Well, yeah. Well, what it'll do is this will just pick everything that I mean, there are a lot of things called OG Kush, but if we just go with straight what's called OG Kush, and again, there's just one that stands out. There's a bunch stack of them here. How many do we get? 31 out there that are called OG Kush. One from Reserva Privada and clone only strains. So a lot of people have used a clone, probably from this one here. But all of these are claiming to be OG Kush as well. What makes them? So let's have a look and see. Ooh, that doesn't actually. It's got a little bunch. I mean, this one would go, but yeah, 598. That's a stack of them. And this one, yeah. So this is actually a clone of that out of there. These are all related. They're all the same. Boom. Yep. They are all. And what's this? Yeah, Girl Scout cookies. And there's a there is a crossover between these two. So these ones in the middle, that's where they're. Under OG, cookie OG. Those are the direct crosses between. Whatever clone only strain happens to be. So yeah. That's probably turned into some quite good like visuals or a poster or something.
Shows you how big of a mess everything really is. Shows you how big of a mess everything really is.
Yeah, how limited it really is.
And you can ask it. Well, I keep stopping showing the screen. I don't know how interesting this is. I mean, is it? To me, I found it. There's some visuals to it. Was it? What I call these queries, which is terrible. So these are the 50 most influential strains. I could show it as a table rather than.
How many of those are clone onlys?
These are all so close to each other in their influence there. Of the 50 most influential, there's a few that are way more. Now, and again, this is also interesting because like Indicate just is a strain. You know, people have called it, it's an original strain. Indicate has just been labeled as a strain. So one of the sources is just Indicate. One of them is just sativa. It does just go to show how much of a mess it really is when you were trying to unpick it to the fine detail stuff. But if you accept it and do it at a very general level, and if we can bring in the genome data, then that would start to help break it apart and be able to clear up some of that uncertainty of what fits into this big category. Because what I have seen is things where it's apparently been indicate, and suddenly the outcome is sativa, and you go, that's interesting. How did that happen? So here you can like Afghan. OG Kush is one of the top ones. Chem Dog, Thailand Sativa, where would it? Mexico Sativa, Girl Scout cookies, And Girl Scout cookies hasn't been around for that long, and it's in the top 50 of things that have been
Wow.
crossed with it.
Oh yeah.
And quite significantly as well.
Yeah, it's not tiny.
121, yeah, that's quite a high page rank score. You've got us. Hayes. But yeah, that's, yeah, you remove that and boom, a whole chunk of stuff disappears out of the equation. That's what I'd like to be
Howard
able
Diesel.
to. Yeah. Yeah, it's got 359 direct offspring or direct lines that have been crossed specifically with this particular. And this is sour diesel from unknown or legendary. So it's just sour diesel.
But most of these are that way.
Clone only strains is Girl Scout cookies.
Unknown or legendary.
And then, okay, so, and then that's Durban Poison and OG Kush, according to this source.
That's a great question. How does Durban look compared to a lot of this stuff? I mean, you even told us there's different Durbans depending on where it came from. It was just anything that was in Durban.
Yeah, well, I mean, there's a lot that go by the name of Durban. You know, so there's lots of these Durban something. But if we're just going to go with what? Here are all these other ones. So these are all ones where, but this is where the strain is actually just called Durban. There's 6. Which, but with Durban Poison, and I wish this thing would just resize automatically. Annoying. Sorry, guys. You can quickly see it's the Dutch Passion one that everybody's been using, or that got popular at least, was the Dutch Passion one. Which I think that's well known. I mean, it's well known that it is the Dutch Passion line, that Durban Poison, that is the one that got used, crossed into everything. Yeah.
So, yeah, I guess if I was looking for a Durban Poison, I would probably look for one that wasn't theirs, just so it was something different.
Mm-hmm. Well, in that case, you go, well, I don't want to focus on, I can explore one of these down here. I mean, this is from Landrace Seeds.
Something
you could
unrelated to theirs.
Yeah, I mean, Durban Poison, 60-day flower. You could go, well, how much? This doesn't seem to have. Okay, where did this come from, though? It comes from this general group. That's maybe what you want to check out is, yeah, where did these all come from? And they're all going to. Oh, that's skunk number 1. So that's not really Durban Poison. Because that's this one from Nirvana Seeds is with skunk number 1. And I bet you this comes from that group over there. It's just that this particular one out of that group. So yeah, you can pick any one of these, but is it really any different to picking that one?
Yeah, that's just, I was wondering, like, this is a great way to kind of get an idea of how to wrap your head around what you actually want to try to accomplish.
Yeah, you might want to be going for these little things, but then when you check, well, where did it's just that it hasn't been used in many other things, but it could be because it's really just, well, there we go. That's it. This is probably as good as working with that. If you worked it a bit, you could find exactly the same thing. And given that it doesn't have any other lineage, this is a cross directly with itself, an F1, F2, whatever, just call it cross. Be everything that goes by, and then Durban points. Yeah, it's everything here. And then you've got the stats on it. It's the kind of thing you could expect to get. Not particularly high, 17% THC.
Well, and that's, I guess, another question. Like a lot of people like the 17, the 15 to 20 as for a smoke rather than the 20 and up. It's weird,
And you can also take this terpene profile now and go, okay, we'll find everything that hangs with that as being the most dominant terpene. And you'll find, unless it comes from some of these areas, it just doesn't have it. And you won't get it until you bring in one of from this little cluster. You need to bring one of them in to introduce that if you want it to become the dominant one at least. Otherwise, you don't stand a chance. It's either it's just not there at all, and so you'll never see it.
Well, as you say, thanks for doing the donkey work of putting this together, man. This is a neat tool to be able to see things.
Yeah, it is.
It would be cool to, as I was mentioning, the other bit that's available is the DNA sequencing. It's just, oh God, it's so, there's over 8,000 of them available, but they all need to be downloaded. Hey, anybody want to help out?
How many terabytes of data is
that? Well, 8 terabytes. Is it 8 terabytes? Depending on they're about 100 or so megs when they're zipped up, and then uncompressed, they're a gig or so in size, some of them. So it's about a terabyte's worth of data sitting there that needs to be. And I've done it for 168 of them so far. And you can start to then complete 168 out of 8,000. That's just having dragged your finger down the paint and removed the dust layer. You haven't even scratched through the paint.
168 to 8,000. You'll be done in no time. You're fine.
The maximum you figured I can download at a time that they allow you to download at a time from the site's like 3.
Where's all this data from?
What's the name of that place again? You knew it was off the top of your head there, GMF. Was it the government central place? It was one of these non-profit centralized spots, and it's got all of the phylosis submitted genome sequencing, it's got metagenomics, it's got stuff from China, it's got from all over the place. Everybody who's doing it is just submitting it up there, and so all of this data is freely available, and you can just start to extract it and play around with it.
Right. So it's basically all the genetic data that's been available from around the world, all collected into one place.
Yeah, from all the academic research. Okay. So you've got
But you're the computer expert. How do we actually efficiently download it so we can play with it? Because it's taking you this long to get 168 of 8,000 is going to really bottleneck this project. So how can we try to get more computing power into this? And this is, I guess, your realm of expertise. What can we do to actually help you get this done?
Give Pete a bunch of money so he can go out and buy a whole shit ton of servers.
Well, from what he's saying, it won't matter because they'd have to be in different places because it's only going to let them connect and download from so many at a time. So is there some
Yeah,
way
though
we can crowdsource this to people with decent internet connections to download for you or something?
I mean, that would be the trick. Because on the website, at least one thing that happens is if you tell it to sort the search results, in this order, and you do all of them, then you tell it to do like 80 or 100, or let's say 10 per page. Well, no, 10 per page is a bit minimal. Oh, yeah, okay, do 10 per page. But on 8,000, that's 800 pages. And you say to someone, okay, you do pages 1 to 20, somebody else does 21 to 40. It's a very precise, as long as everybody sorts the result set exactly the same way, is perfectly sliced out.
It
And
should line
any
up.
overlap, you spot an overlap instantaneously. It's 100% match. So if there's you mix a name up, it's like ping, and there it is. And also you can tell if it's a clone or something because it's a 100% match.
The data will be 1 for 1. Yeah. Huh.
So that's
So
the
we just
challenge,
need
is
to figure out how to
needing
organize
to
it.
figure out how to get over the course of a week. If somebody sat down and went, oh yeah, I can do every evening, I can sit down and do 1 page, and that's just that's 10 a night, or a day. Just download them, and I can put up a Google Share where that can then be uploaded to, so I can extract them. And because once I'm done with the extraction, I'm getting rid of it. I don't need to keep that amount of raw. I'll dump it onto a disk or something, but I don't need to keep that amount of raw data kicking around. And then I want to make it available. I mean, I don't just want it's not just my own personal playing around with it. The graphical bit's tricky to figure out how to do that, because I'm using another Bloom Neo4j desktop, if anybody's interested, which is a free client. I can, you could use that. I could put up a data, the graph database behind it with those kind of queries where you ask it a question sort of thing, but they're predefined questions. And there's a degree of exploring you can do. You can click, and it'll explode really quickly for you. It'll test the metal of your PC like that.
Looking at what this project entails, right? What we're talking about, honestly, this is where, like, if you had a Discord or something like that, it would be much easier to organize this, because you could get everyone on 1 page on Pete's Discord. You could create the list, divvy it up to people. You know what I'm saying? Or if you had somewhere to meet up at, that we could get interested people who might be willing to do some downloading for you to take a few pages.
Like, yeah, I mean, we could do it on the neighborhood. I mean, it's not a bad idea. I'm terrible on stuff like Discord and that. From the old forum days, that kind of stuff just sends a shiver up my spine. Yeah. At some point, somebody gets called, "You're worse than Hitler," flame war, boom, service shut down, move on. It's like the natural life cycle of those kind of environments. But yeah, and actually, that's probably one where it would work quite well.
Right.
You could do all sorts of really cool stuff with it, and that's what I'd like to build it out and expand it to the point where upload.
And then you can put it behind a paywall and make $1 billion. Sorry. I thought it was fun.
That's up. Don't let on. Hey, you either give data to play or you pay to play. One of the two. Contribute to play. The way it works. But that's just it. The more data the community puts in, the more the community gets out of it. And when you start to link in all the flavor data, all that information. In fact, I saw Cascadian on his feed had a terpene kit. Or, one of those little testing kits. That certainly looked interesting. That looked like something that we could probably people could get to and start to do it. But we should look into
Absolutely.
how
You
much
just
that
happened to
is,
mention
and
of
that would
cost, but
be
yeah.
interesting to see what the cost of one of those kits is, because should put that up as the lucky draw for filling out the flavor questionnaire. Let me give that some
Funny enough,
thought.
I was hanging out with Magma and we were talking about like what it would take to make that kit. So I went and started sourcing out, okay, where would we get, like, who would we get the base terpenes from? How many do we need to put in a kit? How big does the sample need to be? Is there a way that we can basically come up with a formulation to mix a sample? So you take 1 drop of this, 2 drops of that, 3 drops of that, put it all on one piece of paper, seal it in a vial, leave it for 60 minutes, then come back and see what it smells like when they've all had a chance to kind of intermingle. So yeah, that's funny. Magma and I have been kicking that around and looking at stuff like that. I think it's a great idea. You know, something that's just a raw kit with the idea, with the items, but then using your kind of data, how can we formulate these together to tell someone, okay, you put these 3 together to get kind of an OG smell.
And then when we, again, there's got to be a way to get the sequencing done as cheaply as possible. Man, it's a bit that's the stumbling block. Because if we can get that done, and we can also get that, but to figure out a way of getting it added in, what would be really interesting is to know that, you know, everybody's grown this. It's the same thing, you know. Or, you know, we've got a match these smells, and start to be able to go, hang on, that smells always here with this in the DNA profile. It's all, you know, whenever we see this in the DNA profile, I'm damn sure we can get to that without
is it a matter, but is it a matter of just getting the baseline for everything, so that way, you know, you can match up what you have to that? I mean, because I'm sure the science is there. If you wanted to home test your plants for like DNA, that you could do it. I mean, fuck, I can test my dog's DNA to tell me what color it's going to be if it's got any fucking health issues. I mean, the science is there. I mean, there's something there that can do it. It's just
precisely.
It's what's the whole baseline, or is it just the efficiency of it, cost, or what?
Yeah, I mean,
it's knowing the markers and
the cost is. The difference is you do either the full sequence of however many million base pairs it is, and on one of these flow cells, you could probably do, what did they say? I think they reckon you could get maybe 4, maximum 5 runs out of a flow cell. It works pretty much like a battery. There's X number of little things that it runs through, and, you know, so it can read 10 million base pairs. If you're only reading 2 million, there's, you know, after the first run, there's still 8 million that it can do, but you got to clean it incredibly well to be able to do that. So he said you probably get 4 runs out of it. The cool thing is, what you can do is you can mix DNA from 2 different samples together. And it can separate. Well, when you've prepared it, they get a barcode sequence that gets added to each one, and then you can feed them both through the thing at the same time. So you don't have to wait for one test and then do the next test. You can mix them all together and run them straight through, and each one is barcoded, so it knows how to separate them out as it goes through the system. So you could do 4 at a time on the single plate, but a single plate's 750 pounds a pop. You can order like 1,000 of them, and they will deliver them to you like they don't give them to you all at once. They deliver them as you need them. That way, so you got to store them. But that's the catch. That bit's expensive. So this is why I wanted to try and get somebody from one of these companies that maybe does kits for PCR testing, and then is working out, okay, well, what are the significant the PCR primers that you need to be able to pick out the bits we're interested in, so you have the data, and then you have to convert image to numerical. That's the big difference. The cheap PCR is the visual stuff that you do with the gel slices. It gets a bit more expensive when you want to do qualitative no, quantitative PCR, where you're after the numerical data, because that involves a bit more machinery to do that. That's the catch. So the
Well, but
nice
this is
thing
why you're
about
looking at starting with these 8,000 that are already available, right? Someone's already done that donkey work. Someone's already paid to do that.
And I'd love to be able to hook up with what some of these other companies and say, you're throwing this data up onto that thing there anyway. How about you let us know when you're about to do it, so we could. The trick is to find the new stuff. That's what will throw off the filtering, is depending on how regularly it's being updated. Yeah, you need to be able to say, show me all records that were only added in the last 2 weeks.
Well, and I think it's just funny how the debate around, the ethics of what do we owe credit to, who do we owe credit to, what kind of credit, it really does go back to, okay, well, can we verify it with science where this came from? Did it come from this person? Did it come from that person? Or even if it's a land race, does that mean we should, kick back a donation or something to the people that gave it to the rest of us? Just to be fair.
Yeah, and you've got to apply, there is also that a degree of sensible practicality that has to be applied. There is the absolute ultimate perfect end goal, but let's be realistic, that never happens. So what's the next best thing that you can do?
Well, the next best thing is every one of us has got to be able to sleep at night.
Yeah, the next, pragmatic way. It's applicable and pragmatic. That makes sense. And that would be, if you're doing shit commercially, make sure you're doing it. It's just that make sure you're doing it by full. But at the same time, if you're getting involved in a commercial, doing stuff commercially, if you're selling seeds commercially, if you're selling a product commercially, you have to take proper commercial responsibility and actions, put those in place. Get your shit copyrighted, take the correct precautions, because it's no different to any other business. You could come up with an incredibly successful shoe line, and if you didn't copyright the shit, you're fucked. Someone else will just take it from you, and that's just it. It is no different to any other industry that has high value products. If you design something really cool but don't copyright it, it's no different.
Well, then I guess what we're acknowledging there is that the value is in the marketing, the value is in the hype, the value is in the advertising, the value is in how much people trust the brand, just like in every other quote unquote business transaction.
Yeah, it's brand trust.
Yeah,
you try and rip a Nike product off and see how hard Nike come down on you. As you said, Skittles, don't think the fact that you call wheat Skittles, they're not going to be happy about that.
No, that was very dumb on their part.
Own the brand name Skittles, you know what I mean?
And they doubled down by saying taste the rainbow. Like, that was just, you're just begging for it, man. Like, I don't know. And corporate America is not known to be too forgiving about that stuff, but
No, they spent a lot of money on that.
Yeah.
They've spent billions on marketing. It's just like, yeah, here you go for free.
Just to give it away.
Yeah.
And there you just nailed on that, because that's what the breeder has done, or the person's done. They've spent a lot of money, blood, sweat, and tears to build the brand loyalty. Because that's what, if it has no loyalty, nobody cares. If your brand's no good, it has no loyalty, nobody's interested in using it either, because it has there's no one's interested in it. But if you've done the groundwork to build it up, then it becomes, all right, it carries that clout.
So I guess what we,
and that's where you get the right. Sorry. I mean, that's where you get the uplift in your business, is because, I'm using cookies this and Gorilla Glue this, Skittles that, to use all like the brand names. Suddenly, that must be good, because all those names have brand loyalty that they've built up. That everybody, they have that weight that they bring with it. Yeah, kudos that they bring with it.
So I guess what we're saying is the real value is in the marketing and is in the hyping. It's not in what someone's done to actually do the breeding. So if, for example, you just happen to slap hype on hype, but you happen to name it a really smart thing, you've just done all the donkey work. You've done all the hard work because you did smart marketing and smart hyping.
Mm-hmm. But yours, they need to give credit to the people that they got it from. And the thing is, people will see it.
Yeah, we give credit.
Yeah. Somebody will see it and go, well, hang on, that is what you see going on, is hype on hype. But very quickly it gets picked out like, no, that's bullshit. That doesn't work. By the way, Lefty, apparently I've got to ask you something about supercharging hotboxing. For modern genetics.
Yeah, so we had a little sesh up in Michigan for 420, and we all hopped in my car, and I have one of those air mattress inflators. We hotboxed my car with one of those. I put like, I don't know, like a quarter ounce in that thing, and just torched it, and fucking like 5 seconds, my car was completely filled with smoke. Yeah, it was fun. It was a good time.
Oh, brilliant, man. Brilliant.
His air mattress has a little cloud of resin on the inside.
Oh, man, yeah.
I think that's what he's probably talking about.
That's hilarious.
I have no idea. I'm sure it probably is.
I've hotboxed a lot of shit over the years, but I think that's probably the only one that modern know about.
Yeah, I mean, you know, because that's the catch is when all you've done is you've just thrown hype on hype and not done any of the grunt work yourself. You can only do
the grunt work's marketing. We agreed the grunt work is marketing.
No, we haven't agreed the grunt work is in marketing. That's what you said it was. The grunt work in building up a brand is you can have all the great marketing in the world. If it's a shit product, and the marketing will bite you on the ass because you'll spend it all and it'll just go nowhere. The hard graft about building up a brand awareness is building a good product and a good brand that stands the test of time. And that takes a lot of effort. That involves marketing the product correctly and branding the product correctly. That's all part of it, but that's only one piece of a puzzle. The rest of it is all very much around, you know, building out a good product. And that's where the person who's just doing hype on hype and just branding, marketing suddenly falls apart because they don't have the foundation in having built the actual product. So they don't know how to do it. And as you've noticed, 1 + 1 doesn't always equal 2. Sometimes it can equal -1.
Oh God, yeah. Dude, I usually, out of every time I breed, there's only 1 or 2 that ever make it to actually making decent numbers. Everything else is just, meh, you're off to the side, meh.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, well, running past the hour. Well, on that note, yeah, I think we can do a little bit of an after show if anybody'd like to jump in. Probably shouldn't do the share the Zoom link. Pretty good. Well, not the Zoom link, the YouTube link. So everybody winds up back at the YouTube channel. Endless loop.
That was pretty funny when you did that. I'm wondering, why is nobody here?
Well, yeah, pretty good. Why am I just back where I started from? Damn it. So yeah, if you'd like to jump in on the after show, you're more than welcome to. There's the link. Then going up the chat. Have to continue this discussion, etc. But on that note, Lefty, where can everybody find you, sir?
I'm at Lefty's Farm on Instagram and Cannabis and hanging out with you guys on Saturday. Thanks for the show, Pete. This was a good one, man. This I like this genetics information and backtracking shit and just seeing how everything links up, and yeah, thanks for putting in the work on it.
I mean, I'm for me, the whole data side and that visualization, I mean, I think that's really where things need to change so we can make the data more interesting by coming up with some interesting ways to visualize the data. I think there's still more to be done there, but it would be good to know that is that of interest. taking those kind of dives into the data and looking at it from that perspective, and just clicking on things and seeing where it takes you. That to me is like going down the rabbit hole. You just like expand this, expand that, and it's like, whoa, and then you look back at it and you go, back me here. Quickest line between there and there is actually straight over.
It's a
it
great
looks like it's really far apart, but it ain't.
Yeah, it's a great resource if you're doing any kind of breeding work, just to look at stuff. You know what I mean? So, yeah. But anyways, yeah, good job. Thank you. I appreciate all the time you probably spent on getting all that stuff in there.
I guess as a closing thought, I'm really struck by what you said, Lefty, about it tells you what a mess everything is. Well, then I think what it sounds like Pete's doing is talking about how do we make a tool that lets us start picking away at the mess? How do we make tools that let us look at it through data rather than apocryphal stories that we're going to have to start from first?
Yeah.
Thanks, Pete.
Yeah, there's a pattern in the data. And that's the beauty these days. There's enough, compute power at home to like find the patterns in the data. Okay. Yeah. But as you said, be able to make that better decision. Like, okay, which one of these? Oh, I know that is the OG Kush that I should be looking for because I can see visually it stands out. That's the one, But yeah.
And if you're talking about empowering people to make better decisions so that they're not just making a mess of genetics, so that they're not just, kind of, as Lefty said, making a mess of things. This is how you do it. You give them access to actually know what they do. So thanks, Pete.
No, absolute pleasure, man. And where can everybody find you, GMF?
Usually in the garden or in the kitchen. Genetic Memory Farms on IG. That's it.
Excellent. And you can find me, Operation Grow 2019, Operation Grow Show 2019 on Instagram, as well as PL Grow Systems on Instagram. And there was the link to the seed co if you want to buy some genetics at reasonable prices. Do take a look. There's plenty on offer there. That's for sure. And there are some feminized seeds that are available there now. Actually, I think there you'd have to go all the way to the very end. It's or there's a filter there that you can apply to go and have a look at the feminized seeds that are available. They are priced a little differently, just due to the extra effort that has to go into making them. So unfortunately, those ones are priced differently to the rest of the regular seeds. But on that note, feel free to jump in and